Alright, welcome to Stampscaping 101. I have trimmed down a lot of my brand new foils that I just picked up today into half sheets and quarter sheets here. 25 sheets per pack came in the packs. So we have a lot of potential scenes to stamp out on all these papers, and it should last me a really long time. Okay, now one of the papers that I've been really dying to play around with, but I never had until now, are the colored foils here. All right, now this is a really thin foil, so we're going to be testing out multiple things on this, how it can heat set, how images stamp out on it, how things dry, buckling and curling types of issues, and so on and so forth. Stuff that, I don't know, it's kind of, applies to foil surfaces, just anything that's not kind of a conventional porous surface that we kind of, get the gist of in terms of stampability and compatibility with different media is concerned. Okay, now on something like this, the thing that I imagined with something like this, I think this would be a beautiful type of kind of winter scene, and I thought I would do a composition that I really enjoyed doing on this, and that's with a bunch of the tree trunks here, and having some lighting going on in the background. Maybe a moon or something like this. I see this as a perfect nighttime type of sky type of situation. With that beautiful, beautiful, I don't know what color that would be. It's different colors depending on how much light is on it. So kind of a cobalt, or ultramarine type of color scheme here. All right, now for me, I'm just going to be using some Brilliance black and white. That makes it really easy to use. I don't have to think too much about drying potential, depends how it transfers on this, though. It's a surface unlike the other ones that I've played around with so far. So that is a little bit too dry. Let's get this going with some more ink. You want to get your ink pretty well set with these different types of foils, because that non-porous surface of foils can kind of, I wouldn't say it resists the ink, but it just doesn't transfer over quite as easily. I'm looking for my little card that let's just use a piece of paper here and spread that around a little bit more. It doesn't have to be perfect, because this is such a kind of a thick, sloppy ink. I almost see it as like ink, paint, more than ink here. All right, so that is that. Let's see how this goes here. All right, that is really juicy. Okay. All right, so let's get some images stamped out. Anytime you stamp one of these images that kind of ends abruptly, unless you stack it against each other and make it much taller, kind of have it going off the top of the paper like so. Or you can put it wherever you want. Okay, so this will be some trees, and then we'll have a little bit of a space in between where some moonlight will be streaming through. And we'll see how, if we can make this kind of a nice dramatic looking, I don't know, midnight kind of wintry scene. All right. All right. That is really a thick, thick ink, so that stamped out just fine, no problem with that. Okay, we'll go a little bit higher. Higher up represents something, a tree that's more distant, not that far because they're the same size, but, maybe it's a few feet away. Okay. That. Maybe I should change the, let me change the exposure of this page. Okay, that's a little bit better. I had to change the exposure there with such a black against dark there. But what you can see when you shine that light on it, it's really quite a different look. And if someone is looking at your pieces, they'll undoubtedly be looking at it under some sort of light, so you don't have to think about it too much. Okay. Some more trees here. All right. Creating a little bit of a forest. Now I'm thinking about this, but I don't want all 3 trees again, so what I'll do is I'll clean off one of them, or I can stamp a different type of tree in there. Doesn't have to be the trunks. Okay, but I think I will do the trunks here. Okay, that gives me pretty clean. You really have to make sure you get all that ink off, because this is a really thick ink, so you don't want it kind of in the details there. Alright, so just stamping out the 2 trees, right? Because you can do selective impressions. Okay. I'm going to be careful about this one right here. Is going to stamp right over that. Okay, but I'll try to keep as much of it off there as I can. Go about like so. I think this is stamping out very quickly just because of how thick the ink is. Yeah. Maybe I should have pressed a little bit harder. See, I was being a little bit too gingerly, and it didn't give me a full impression in there. That's all right, though, because we'll just fill it in. All these different types of things. Now, if I missed like half of the stamp, I might spend a little bit of time, kind of filling in a little bit more. But that is not going to be a problem. So, in other words, don't worry about kind of your layouts too much. Of course, ideally we want really, 100% impressions or whatnot, but if you don't get it, I don't think it's something that we really notice in the end. Okay, so that has been situated like that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in here. I think I'll fill in here, but I believe what we'll have to do kind of later on is we'll have to stamp these again once I get my other media applied in here. Boy, that is some really thick ink. I'm going to have to really apply a lot of heat setting, I believe, to get this dry enough to work on right now. But that's what we're here to test out. I got that ink really thick on there. All right, this is the Sedge filler. I just want to go for some texturing on the forest floor. I'm getting a big blob here. I think there's like a thing of something on that. Again, it's not really going to be a big deal, though. Okay. There we go. Got a piece of fabric or something right there. All right. Okay, so that is filled in there. Boy, that is kind of a sloppy application. It's not what I'd want if I was doing it on like glossy cardstock or matte cardstock. But, oh, I know what it was. There's cotton on here from me, using a cotton ball in here. So it kind of balls up in there. I need to kind of scrape that off once in a while. But like I said, it's not really a big deal. Or it isn't a big deal. Because when I add in all of my different tones in here, a large portion of the things are going to be obscured in terms of a lot of different aspects of the card. So it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? And that's good. Okay, so there's other types of things that I want to stamp in here, other types of trees in here, kind of throughout, other types of foliage and brush in here, okay? But I think I'm just going to leave it at this for right now before I heat set it, and then I'll layer those other types of objects in here when I get to it. All right, so this is a really thin card, so let's see how this takes to heat setting. And that ink is super thick. Maybe I shouldn't have done it so thick on there, but oh well. It'll be a good test. All right, heat setting. kind of keep moving it around so it's not in any one particular area. We see this bowing starting to happen. We'll just counter curl it later. It's gonna curl up into like a aluminum can or something like that. If I keep doing this. Alright, that dried completely from what I can tell. You can kind of look at it closely, and if there's like little shimmering, glistening bit of ink, then, you know, then it's not dry yet. I just counter curl this like this, and maybe if you do it a little bit before it kind of dries, that's better. This is a kind of a thin paper, so I don't know, maybe it's better that it's thin and not kind of thicker, because it really just, you know, it flattens pretty easy. Now it's not completely flattened, but not too bad. Okay, so that ink dried pretty good. I see it's still wet in a couple areas. I don't need it to be completely dry, but let's test this out. Let me see. I have some ink on my finger previously anyway. It's clean. Alright, that looks pretty good. It's not coming off on my finger, alright? So, that's what it looks like. Alright, so just kind of curl it, bend and curl around like that. Alright. Okay, so, let's see here. I want a moon or something up there. I might go ahead and use an actual moon. I could just do like a cutout type of thing, and then do some masking, and just do like a little hole punch type of moon in there, but let me just get it started with an actual image. Let's see what we have here. Oh, here we go. Sorry. I don't always know what I'm going to do in my scenes. Got it, finally. Okay, this one's the cloud with moon right here. And I'll just stamp it in black. Oops. Okay, this is from Nature Sheet. Is it number 9? Yeah, number 9. Or sold on its own. Okay. Okay, I'm going to really wipe off the edges so that it kind of blends into the surrounding area very easily. Meaning, those trees right there. See this right here? You don't need to mask off the trees. Alright. Did I get that pressed in? I don't want to press into my wet ink too much. Okay, so let's go, well, let's just go roughly around right here. I just want to have that moon somewhere in between my trees, okay? Right there. Can you see that on the video? I know it's hard. This is really a, it's a tough both video and photographic thing. That's why I always, when I post my scenes on holographic or mirrored, any type of mirrored type of surface, I always do a video instead, because you can't really get the gist of it unless you kind of do this to your piece. All right, that needs to be heat set. was very quick, and I don't know, while I was doing it, I kind of heat set the rest of the little bits here that were still a little bit wet. Okay, so that is going to be my light source in the piece. Let me illuminate that here first, okay? We're going to go with the Brilliance Moonlight White. It's a pretty good white. It dries very quickly, and I don't know, it has a good consistency and kind of overall neutral tone to it. In other words, it's not like a warm or cool white. It's just neutral. Okay. Just a Q-tip here. Getting my moon set, okay. Now, how white you want it, is up to you. I think I will add a little bit more. The more layering that you apply, the more opaque it becomes, okay? So if you want kind of a lighter one and more subdued, then don't make it as thick. But, now that being said, after you apply this, on most types of surfaces, this will dry darker than what it appears like when it's wet. All right? Okay, so that is that. Now let's keep going with the same spirit here with the ink. Let's get out our new applicator here in just a 100% cotton ball. My cotton balls are really, really cheap. Look at this. That's a brand new one. Look at that. Terrible. All right. I got it because, I don't know, I was at some store and I didn't feel like going to like a Target or something like that. It was just this little tiny, well, not tiny, but it was at a grocery store. And I don't know, they just used kind of cheap sources for, paper goods and stuff like that. Non-name brand stuff. And I don't know. It was just I don't know, whatever brand of cotton ball. But they work just fine for me. Okay, here's my mask for my clouds that I'm going to be applying here. Let's go for a little bit more variation, though, okay? Something like that. I don't know, maybe you can sculpt your own cloud formations here. Yeah, something like that. See, it makes those kind of curves like that. All right. And you want them kind of rough like that. Just for some variation. Okay, now here's what is happening a little bit easier for me now, because I wasn't heat setting before. I can't, just put this right over the top of these trees here and not expect them to smear, but now that they're heat set, I don't need to worry about that, which is fantastic. All right, now here's what you won't want to do. Now, see, I'm applying this in here, but over the tree, I'm being careful not to go over my trees too much. I could go over them a little bit, and that's not really a big deal, but what I really want to do here, what I'm looking for in my applications, is that I'm just applying a little bit of color at any given time. See how it's not real smeary or anything like that, or like blobby? It's because I have very little ink on this cotton ball right here, okay? Now this cotton ball's going to get a little bit more saturated, okay? But it's better to start off kind of slow, and you don't want to go onto here with such a thickly coated applicator. So you might even tap it off on your paper towel a little bit first and then come into the scene so that you're getting kind of a softer application, especially if you have a lot of ink on this, which is entirely possible because a lot of times we don't use our white pigment ink pads too much. So a lot of times, they could be sitting around for 10 years and you can still go back to them sometimes and they're still like super juicy, Not in some states, but, a lot of times you can. All right, so see, there's some clouds like that. All right. Now, see how these clouds are being bottom lit from that moon. Like this, okay? I'll put some over here too. But, well, okay. I'll flip my paper towel around when I'm doing the clouds underneath the moon, okay? Because in that case, they will be top lit because the moon is above them. All right, now I'm getting a little bit too much in here. That's the nice thing about foil is you can just dab in there and wipe it off, you know. You can switch off to a clean piece or something. Okay, so like that, we're kind of getting our moon in the background. It looks kind of weird right now, I know, because there's nothing else in here. We're seeing that those clouds are being illuminated, but we don't have any other light in here. So let's just keep adding light. Now, I was going like this with those first clouds because they're being bottom lit, so what we're seeing is the bottom of the cloud here, okay? But now, they're being top lit. So I'm going to flip this around so the clouds are like that, and they'll be top lit from this angle, okay? You know, I'm putting this over that, and I don't need to worry about that too much. I mean, if it was sopping wet or something like that, if you want to heat set that, you can, but I'm not going to heat set it. All right, so here's some bottom lit clouds right here. All right. And you kind of transition this right here. What you do is you add some of this white down here, okay, right around your crease. Now this is the thing that people kind of, they have to kind of get used to doing. What you're doing is you're utilizing drier versions of this and coming down like that, so you get kind of a thicker area right around your, you know, your towel, your mask, and then you transition it like this. So you kind of keep tapping it down. You can wipe a little bit if you want to. So it goes from kind of a thicker application of ink to a thinner one, and thus, using white, you're going from light to dark like that because it's going, you know, thick to thin. Okay, so you know, something like that. See that transition right there? Thick to thin. Okay, so it's the transitions right there. Okay, now that being said, when you do that, you know, you can take your mask off and you can transition it a little bit more by just bringing in a little bit more of that tone like that. I like that moon right there, but I think that might look even better if I used a gel pen for that moon. To get a little bit more crisp, and I might do that. I wonder if I should do it right now. Let me see here. See this right here? You just kind of come in here. The reason why I'm saying this is because the consistency between the moon and the clouds is exactly the same. I think I want a much crisper moon to contrast against a real billowy, soft-looking cloud, okay? All right, so let's go in here with the paint pen, okay? Get the outline going first, like so, and just kind of fill. And I know that looks really stark, and it will look that way, but I'll show you how we blend that in. Okay. Now we have this really quite a light source in the sky. That's going to set the tone for our lighting, that's for sure. All right, so that's our moon right there. I think it looks better there, doesn't it? Yeah. Always playing around with stuff and learning, so remember, whatever you don't have to have like super preconceived notions. I don't. All right, when I'm kind of playing around with things, but I'm not, it's not to say that I'm just completely winging it with everything. I'm kind of following certain fundamentals, you know, in terms of taking something and kind of applying something, like on this right here, I'm applying just a very light shade, you know, and I take a look, and if I like it, then I add more, okay? So, you know, it's not, I remember doing something like really precarious, like brush calligraphy or something like that, where once you lay it down, it's set, you know, and you know, there's no turning back. So, you know, at all steps along kind of in the process, I'm just kind of playing around and tinkering. Now, I knew this was going to be a forest with a moon, you know. It's not suddenly going to be kind of a, you know, a desert scene at sunset, you know, at this point in time. But there's a lot of things that are, you know, very malleable in terms of lighting, kind of the emotional spirit that you can give to something. You know, you can make it darker. In this case, working with such, you know, light inks like this, you can make things lighter. And you can really kind of play around with things. Look at that, it's really starting to come around now, isn't it? Kind of getting in between some of these trees is a little bit tricky without going on top of the trees. You don't need to mask, though. But if you really want to, you can. It would probably, you know, if you take the time, it comes out a little bit better by doing so. And if I took the time, it would be. But that's not something that I really feel like doing most of the time. You know, being so kind of meticulous. I think it looks great when people do the, you know, things like that. It's like so crisp and, you know, really nice in terms of edges. But I don't know, when I'm doing things in terms of the process, it's not really something that I really feel like doing most of the time, you know. Kind of, there's a lot of tedium like that. Not that it's not worth it, but I don't know. I'm usually kind of playing around and looking for other things. You know, I have other questions in terms of, you know, my media and, I don't know, things that come up in the process of doing things like that. Okay. You know, maybe if I'm submitting something for, you know, publication in a, you know, like a magazine or something like that, you know, an article, then, you know, I would probably take a little bit more time, but otherwise, you know, not really. I don't feel like it. Okay, now, where your moon is, that's our light source, right? So it would stand to reason that kind of around your moon, you'd probably have a little bit more light than maybe in other areas, right? Does that make sense? More light, in other words, more white around your light source. And then as you move out here, see, this is kind of getting away from the light source. Maybe I use less ink, okay? So like that, where it's a little bit stronger on the interior. Yeah, that looks pretty interesting on this blue here. Okay, now I'm going to blend this down like so into my clouds, okay? You can layer your clouds, and it doesn't have to be just that. You can come back into it. Once in a while, tear another, you know, paper towel and use that because it starts soaking through your towel in there, and sometimes it starts picking up, you know, the texture of your towel. Anyways, I don't know. Yeah, it'll pick up that texture. All right. You know, paper towels aren't expensive, so you just, you know, that's all I'm talking about. You're going to do that. Oh, that didn't tear. Here, I want it a little bit more round, like, you know, like that. Okay? And then just come back in there. It's the cheapest mask you've ever bought, right? You know, or a cloud, I don't know, cloud mask, cloud template, right? And it's completely unique to your piece when you do that, because it's not set, right? It's not one of those plastic ones. I love the plastic ones, don't get me wrong. I think those look really cool. But if you don't have it, this is a pretty good way to go. Or you can use them in conjunction with one another too. Use those ones plus the towel, so you have something that kind of a little more stiff and static, and you get that contrasting with a very soft version of it too. All right, so see that? All right, now that just alone, I think looks pretty good. But what I like to do now is I like to just freehand it in here. So I'll kind of add some of this like this, and I'll just kind of blend these all together, you know. I'll add a little bit here and there, see, like just like that. But you don't have to come over here. Don't make things so even, you know. Make them a little bit more irregular, I think. And I think that goes a long way in the pieces, okay? Variation, in other words, okay? Okay, now remember I was talking about that cloud, or the moon, about how stark it is. Let's make it glow a little bit too, and I'll tap some of this pigment ink right over it. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of aiming for the edge around that moon, okay? And I don't have to make it uniform. I could make, maybe I'm thinking about making the bottom portion a little bit kind of glowing. Maybe the top portion we'll leave as is, just, you know, again, for that variation. When I'm talking about variation here too, it's letting us off the hook in terms of being meticulous, okay? It allows us kind of a lot of freedoms. I don't know, that a lot of people, I find, don't seem to give themselves in pieces like, oh my god, I messed up. It's, you know, I did, you know, this one step. They don't see that as kind of like a process, kind of in the whole kind of active kind of creativity. Those kind of unexpected things that come up are really kind of fun if you allow them to be. In other words, no, I don't want to, you know, drop a stamp on all over my whole thing, you know, and get this, you know, impression of what I want it to be or something like that. But in terms of like these smaller types of process, you know, techniques and things that we're doing, see that where I've kind of really illuminated it right there? And see how these are darker outside. But kind of in addressing things, unexpected things that come up that might be undesirable, if you just kind of work with them, you'll get your best techniques out of that. You know, you'll find your kind of way through. It's kind of like going off on a hike and kind of running into kind of something unexpected, you know, or something like that. It's kind of that process there. And that's often the times what, you know, kind of makes things kind of interesting and fun. Not always when you're in it, you know, but it's like after you come out of it, it's like, oh, that was a little bit more of a kind of an experience than what you kind of anticipated or whatnot. All right. Okay, so that is that. Now we're going to add some lighting on this meadow here, okay? We're going to do it two ways. We're going to do it with white, but we'll also do it with black. Okay, let's heat set this white now a little bit. I can tell that white became much more transparent than opaque, and where it looked opaque, it became more translucent looking, okay? All right, now here's your lesson on shadows, okay? This is going to be a very basic lesson here, but, okay, so here's our light source right here, okay? And we're going to see the base of the tree right here, okay? I'm going to put this, and this angle right here is where the lighting is going to be coming in, okay? You don't have to do like a formal, you know, cutout like this. And remember, maybe the ground, you know, is not like concrete, so maybe use a torn paper like this, you know, might be even better, okay? All right, so we'll go with something like this, all right? And remember, I'm going to be adding other things onto this because this alone won't, will, you know, probably look a little bit weird. All right, now, things like soil and dirt are less reflective than, like water, okay? Like mist. So I'm not going to make this ground area in here as light as, you know, most of that cloud area in the sky, okay? So I'm just going like this. See, this is what I'm doing right here. Okay, and we'll come around this tree too. It's on the other side of the tree. Now remember, I have to come in this with black as well, all right? Sometimes I kind of forget the tapping like this. this. Okay, so I'm kind of like tapping a little bit and moving to give me a little bit of a streak like that. Okay, it kind of spreads it a little bit more. All right, so that is that. Now, I mean, I could kind of estimate, I can just, imagine my eye going up to that moon right there, too. So it's just something like this. So, the angle might be a little bit more like this here. Okay, it's just like free form, kind of applications, okay? Now there's this one kind of corridor of light on the surface here. Doesn't really make sense right now because it's an isolated version. But once I put in the other, areas of light, hopefully it'll kind of, start coming together at that point in time. We still have our shadows to do though too. So this is just, one part of the kind of the lighting kind of equation scheme or whatever. Okay. And it's a pretty bright moon, so I mean I could put a decent amount of this, but yeah, it's just kind of add it in slowly and build it up. All right, so going back to this whole foil, I'm finding the foil's pretty easy to work with. It's, I don't know, I'm not running into anything new. Maybe the curling, when heat setting was, I don't know, maybe a little bit more, I wouldn't call it extreme, but noticeable, I guess. All right. Okay, so there's one area of light. Wow, that is really something. It almost looks like the clouds up there. Okay, so let's put some lighting back in here and back. Oops. Sometimes using a Q-tip might be better. Okay, so I need to get in between these two trees because that horizon line is roughly about right here. So I'll put some lighting behind that like that. And over here, it's right there. Okay. Something like that. Okay. And the lighting is back here, in between these trees. Like so. Now these trees are kind of close together, roughly about. So it's like, but this one represents something much closer to us, okay? Now the base is right there, and then you see this tree in the background. Oh, what I'll do is I'll have some lighting coming in like that, or from that background area. So it's roughly, let's test out the angle. So I'm going to the base of that, so there's my thing, and I'm going right to that moon. You can go on any part of the moon, it's not like, oh, is it the left side or is it the right side? It's not really that critical, okay? So this one right here, I think will be kind of a thinner thing because we have to imagine where that tree is right there too. I mean, you can go like this if you want to. Now see, that's going to be too harsh, but just to give you an example of where that's going to go, I'll just kind of add it down like this. I'll do a real light version of this right here. And I think I'll make this, this lighting over here less extreme than the center one because it's, because it's on the side, it's a little bit less of a, I don't know, whatever, reflected light area on the ground, okay? So see that right there? All right, let's put another one between those trees. Let's go real thin with this one, okay? It's going to be really thin, so let me try it with the Q-tip here. the more of these types of things, it becomes very, you know, it becomes quite dramatic, I think, having this in here like so. See that right there? And see how it is at the base of the rock? So you put your mask right there, all right? You have that lighting coming through. Can we do it right here? Yeah, I don't think so. I think this tree is in front of that, so the lighting would, you know, go up to this tree right here. So let's just leave it like that. We can come down here with this one, though, I think. Like that. So everything kind of reiterates your directional light, all right? All right, let's come in. I'm trying to decide if I want to hit it with the black right now. Might as well. You almost don't even need to, huh? Just having the paper down here says shadow, but, you know, we stamped out our trees in black, so might as well hit it with some black with the pigment ink as well. Okay, now here's also where, you know, different things, you know, in terms of, you know, the printing ability of black on foil comes into it. Or just, I don't know, pigment inks on foil come into it, not necessarily black. Okay, now here's what I'm doing too. On my trees, all right, I already have a lot of tone and shadow and texture and all that stuff. But let's say the moon is right here. I'm going to tone this side of my tree, making this side darker and this side lighter, okay? And we'll reiterate lighting on the forms themselves, okay? You get it? Just shade the side away from your light source. So you can put lighter touches on the side of the tree that's facing the light and darker touches on the side away from the light. Okay? So we'll do that first and then we'll work on our shadows. Well, I guess this is a shadow. You know, we're shading our tree right here. So see that right there? See where now that tree is really, you know, reiterating that light. Now, where's the shadow going to be on this tree? It'll be on the right-hand side instead of this one where it's on the left-hand side. Okay. I got to be careful in this because I really re-inked that black, so there's a lot of it. But you almost can't even tell because of just how dark this paper is. So, you know, you can go pretty extreme, and it's not any kind of big deal if you use too much, you know. If I'm going on like a rainbow holographic, it's much lighter. It's more of a silvery type of look. Then you have to be a little bit more delicate. But the darker it is, the easier it is to kind of do whatever. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to mask off this tree trunk right here so I can get half of it darker. Roughly about. Okay. See that right there? See that tree? So they're darker on the right-hand side. And see that one right there? Let's hit it with mask on this side. I should really heat set that trunk right there. I won't press down on that too much, though. And this is where I was saying, if you don't get a perfect impression, don't worry about it, because, you know, you'll be doing other types of effects in here anyway. All right, so there that is. Okay. Isn't it kind of looking more and more dramatic? I think this looked really great on green foil, too, like a dark green foil. Okay, let's hit this with our shadows down here. Okay, now here's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to hit this at the base of the trees with a little bit more black ink, okay? And that will kind of anchor them down into the scene, okay? But now, as I move away from the trunk and come out this way, or into this area of my forest floor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition it. I won't have quite as much ink, so kind of a little bit more ink at the base of the trunks. Okay, and then as you transition out, use less ink, okay? So a little bit more, and then kind of move into that area like that. Okay. See that where it's, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, here you go. See, it's some more blue down here, and then it's blacker up there. I don't know if you can tell. See, it's, there's a little bit, yeah, okay, here you can tell. So it just kind of creates a little bit more, I don't know, kind of depth and distance. Okay, and I'll do the same thing right here. We'll have it kind of darker in here, and we'll transition it to lighter. I mean, it's still dark because it's still, you know, black, you know, or dark blue paper. But, you know, we'll do these. We'll try out these little subtleties and come into the white too. You know, like this, and to create a little bit of shadow, like so. Like this is a little bit of a harsh line, so I'm going to come into it a touch. Or you can come into it a lot or whatever. You know, maybe the line, you know, the shadow is being broken up. Or the light beam is being broken up by things, you know, leaves or whatever. Or another cloud in front of it. So it doesn't have to be like this, you know, set, fixed beam, okay? And I'll probably come over this black with a little bit more white again. So you kind of just, you sandwich, you layer your inks. Okay, let's come into this side. I'm kind of curious if I hit this. Let me see if I hit this in here. I was wondering if I hit a clean stamp in here, if it would lift that brilliance. But the brilliance has had enough time to set up, so it's not really giving me too much texturing by lifting the ink off the surface. Okay. I don't know. This is looking pretty dramatic. I really liked my rainbow holographic one, but I don't know. This one's looking pretty interesting so far in terms of the overall look. Okay. All right, let's hit this again over this. Now, see, I lost my texturing in here using this. I still see it a little bit, but okay, let me blot this off first, and let me hit it around on the edges so it gives me a little bit of a softer impression. Looks pretty good. This is the Sedge filler. Okay, see, that gave me a little bit more texturing in there. I can use it over here too, can't I? I've lost it. You know, it's just layering, all right? So, and I hit it up here in a couple little areas because it just, some of that texturing got lost in the clouds. All right, let's go into this now, and let's heat set this a little bit. Heat settings really changed my stamping life, almost. You know, not to get over dramatic, but at least with the pigment inks. does like to curl up, doesn't it? It's a thinner paper, but by that, that being said, it really counter curls just, very quickly because of the, relative thickness of it, having it thin like that. So, all right, let's take a look here. I think we're just about ready for some additional white in here to create some kind of fog and whatnot. This represents kind of fog in here, but it's kind of more about lighting on the surface. But now let's do some kind of atmospherics in here. Okay, so I'm going in with some white again, blot it off a little bit too. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, kind of at the base of some of these trees, which are very dark at the base. And I'm going to come into it a little bit with some additional fog. Kind of take it nice and slow though, okay? Don't hit it with a big blob at this point in time. Okay, now see, I'm coming into this light a little bit more, about like so. I'm changing some of the value areas in here, making it a little bit lighter. I don't want things too consistent, all right? Too uniform. I want things a little bit more varied because I think it looks a little bit more natural. Can you see some of this right at the base of that tree right there? See that? And we'll come in here between these two trees, put a little bit more lighting right in between them, a little bit of that fog. Okay, see that kind of fog hitting those trees over there? Does that look real kind of natural looking? See, we darkened up one side of the tree trunk, and we are illuminating the other part. A little bit of a kind of foggy light kind of adds to the atmosphere. It's like atmospherics here, visual atmospherics. Okay, so there we go like that. Ooh, counterbend. Right. All right, now I have some other images here ready to go that are great for texturing. Our winter brush. I have another bear tree here, maybe. In the foreground, maybe. And we'll do these in, I think in black, and we can also do them in white over here. I think that would be interesting. There's other. I need to try some silverings on this blue paper. Sometimes that silver and blue would be really something, I think. Okay. Kind of adding that winter brush like that in there. See that? Little branches like that. Trying to decide if I want to add this one in here. This bare leafless tree. All right, here's my little rocks, tiny rocks here. On this rock stamp here, I kept playing around with one rock less, one rock more when I was designing it until I just got the right balance. All right, that was it in the black. Now let's do this rock here in white. Okay, let me get as much of that black off as possible. Okay. Lightly in here. Kind of when you're hitting it in the light area, in some ways you're kind of reinforcing lighting in a way. Something like that. Okay. It looks a little bit more, I don't know, full in terms of a textural statement. Having little things like that kind of built up in there. Okay, now, I think that this little area in here is ripe for a subject matter. I've been kind of wanting to do this lady on horse rider. Lady Rider stamp for a while. I think this one might do it. Seems somewhat dramatic. Let's do it in black. All right. She'll be kind of, in this clearing right here. I'll put her in front of one tree and kind of behind this other tree. It depends on, where, the base of the horse goes. Okay, now this one I just want to make sure that ink transfers over there. We're stamping a lot of dried ink and texturing. Alright, how's that look? That's tack and peel on my blocks here. Alright, now, she has been stamped down here, but I'm going to have to add a little bit of shadows. I don't think I'm going to do it like these long shadows coming away from her like that, but I just want something fairly subtle Okay. So let's say the horse's legs would go down here, like about like so. Kind of put it, her shadow, or the horse's shadow too, their shadow, kind of right around in this area, I think. See that right there? It's kind of, I mean, it would be good if I, connected up the legs, but I don't know if I want to do that. And just in terms of the technical aspect of it, making it look kind of natural. All right, I think something like that right there. Okay, now oscillating, I think a little bit more white in here. So we're going to heat set. Again, we'll heat set these brush down here, the brush images. Needless to say, I think mounting this would be appropriate, because it's going to be kind of, curled, in other words, but I don't know, we do that to most of our cards, don't we? Anyway, all right, let's go back to the white. Now remember, we put this kind of misty cloud type of fog formation at the base of the tree, so we would do the same thing with the horse here, the rider. Okay, that's too much. Blot off a bit. Kind of makes it a little bit more mystical, don't you think? When we kind of add these kind of atmospherics into our pieces. It just makes them look more three-dimensional that way. The space, because what you're doing is when you add this type of thing in here, you're representing the space in between the objects. It's like suspended matter. That's being affected by the lighting too. All right, see that down there? Kind of put that little shadow and fog as well. Counterbend. A lot of counterbending going on in this scene. Okay, let's hit this a little bit. My shadows are a little bit kind of harsh over here, so. Or the light beam, I guess. Well, I guess both. It just kind of smooths it out a little bit. Okay, how's that looking? It's looking a little bit smoother. Let's go with the tree a little bit, maybe. A little bit more. You can fine-tune your clouds or anything like that, too. Okay. Finishing touches. Put quite a bit of time into this one. There's a lot of little things that keep occurring to me, and plus I want to see how things kind of build up. Like I said, it's working out pretty good. It's you know, this thing is a little bit more wobbly in terms of all the heat setting that I've done to it. You know what I mean? It's kind of a little wavy. But like I said, I mean, you're just going to mount this in the end anyway, so that won't really matter. Okay, overhanging tree leaves. We'll put some foliage into this. Okay. You can put a little bit of leaf over the, you know, over your moon if you want to make it a little more, I don't know, kind of dramatic. Okay, so you have this kind of little canopy over the top. And we have covered up sky and clouds, but don't you think it kind of enhances, you know, the sky and the clouds that are in there? So they kind of play against each other. Yeah, you've covered some of them up, but I think they, you know, they work to kind of strengthen, you know, each other. Okay. All right, I have these reeds down here. Not super visible because I put black into the very dark areas without too much white behind it, but I think it, you know, it kind of catches on the reflective part. See that? How it's that reed down there. You can't really see it, but then... Now, I haven't dried these off, so they won't be so shiny like that, but you spray seal this, and you know, you'll see a lot of that. But look at this area down here. See that? See how much texture there is? But it's... I don't want it... That looks really busy to me. See that right there? But that's not what it really looks like. You know, when you're holding it, it looks like this. Okay? So it's just kind of a different spirit. Look how busy it is down there, you know, with all that rich texture. But then the overall piece looks like that. Okay? All right, so anyways, I don't know, it was a real pleasure working on this. It's kind of like working on, you know, I can work on a matte dark blue piece of paper, and I enjoy doing that. The ink symbols will go on to that matte type of paper easier because it's more porous, so it grabs things and you can spread things around and whatnot. But having it kind of this glossy sheen here, and the fact that this looks different depending on the lighting you have on it, you know? Now, most of the times it's going to look like that. Now, I have studio lights in here, so, you know, but even just with a little bit of a change like that, look at that. Look at that transition from that to that. And I didn't have to do anything. It's just inherent in the foil, you know, so you can get different looks just, you know, depending on what angle you're holding this at. But, oh, I forgot about something. But I love that kind of aspect of working with the reflective materials here. Okay, so my white pen, of course. All right, so we've added that lighting up there with that. So I'm going to add some little, you know, little highlights down here. Okay, that really stands out down there. So I'm not going to add too much to it, okay? But we'll put some of these little objects and make them a little bit more illuminated. This is a little like specular light that's brighter than white. It's kind of reflecting, you know, we're reflecting our moonlight on maybe a little dew or something like that. But see that right down there? It just kind of makes it sparkle a little bit. But, you know, when you hold it back, it's, you know, it's fairly subtle, you know, but you can see it like when you look at fairly closely. Okay, now, all right, I'm going to have to heat set here because I don't want to get in my leaves here too much. I didn't dry it completely. I don't want to sit here drying forever. It's not the most dynamic. Not that any part of my videos is dynamic video watching, but yeah, forever heat setting. Okay, so remember how the clouds at the base of the clouds when they're bottom lit? So I'm just reinforcing that bottom lit aspect by adding on a few little additional highlights like this. These clouds down here underneath the moon are being top lit, so I can put a few little highlights like that onto them. Not if I don't do it too much if the cloud is kind of darker, okay? Because if it's darker, we're saying that not a lot of light is hitting it in that area. You know, they're not being illuminated so much. So I add these little highlights in the lighter areas, okay? Okay, these trees over here are being shaded on the side away from the moon, but I can highlight a little bit on the side of the tree facing that moon too. Okay, so that right there. If it's too much, just kind of wipe it off. Like that might be a little bit too much, so I got a bunch of ink on my finger. Okay, I'm not going to do too much of that. Just on this little edge of these trees facing my when you ink and dot over the top of pigment ink, you'll have some of that pigment ink going up in that, so you just do a little scribbling to get things kind of flowing again. All right, let's take a look and see how those highlights look. And kind of bring some of those areas to life a little bit. Let me see, I think I went a little bit too extreme over here. Let's see if I can scratch off. Here's just a scratch knife tool here. I'll take off some of those little dots. Okay, that's good. A little bit less extreme over here. That dot really stood out. Okay, so anyways, I think that is it. That is truly some fun material to work on. I've been dreaming about working on like some dark blue for a while, and I thought it would be perfect for, I don't know, certain types of looks and applications, and I don't know, it didn't disappoint me in terms of the end result. I do like that. I do like the variation a lot. And I like the surface. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. This starts curling up like that, but sometimes when I'm heat setting it, it starts bending it back this way, so you know, it's not really too bad, but expect it. You know, this is just some really cheap paper. It's like on, I don't know, like not newsprint, but I forget that brown paper. What do you call that? Butcher paper or something like that. You know, they're super cheap. So, but that being said, it's very inexpensive to buy, you know, big 25 packs. So I don't have any complaints about that. So anyway, there's your lighting in there. You know, if you want to, you can always hit it, you know, a little bit more, you know, here and there. I don't think it really needs it, though, at this point in time. Oscillate things going back and forth. You add some white in there, add a little black over it, go, you know, go back over a little with the white, black if you need to. I didn't need to go back and forth too much on this one, but kind of multiple layers kind of creates a little bit more of a kind of a harmonious blend, you might say, because working on this kind of foil thing, it is kind of building up a lot of that thick type of painty style of ink when we're talking about pigmentings there. So, all right, if you have any comments, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section. If you have any questions, if you like these videos, please hit the like button, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.